Hi there, the Chattering Magpie here. It's been a while since I did an anime impressions video, and for this video I would like to talk about Bibliophile Princess. In a sea of anime that is mostly action-based or something about isekais, there's just such a shortage of shoujo and romance and historical romances that I was actually really excited to see this one. So here's my impressions on the first episode of Bibliophile Princess. I hope you enjoy it. For as long as she could read, Elianna Bernstein, more commonly known as the Bibliophile Princess, has preferred the company of books to that of people. However, as a noble, it is her duty to find a suitor. Fortunately for her, Crown Prince Christopher Selkirk proposes a deal. He will protect her free time so she can read, and in exchange, Elianna will be his fiancée in name only. The years they spend together are bliss as Elianna learns to open herself to others. But all good things must come to an end. For Elianna, who loves books more than people, ending their fake relationship should be no big deal. But as Christopher grows close to another girl, Elianna begins to realize that she isn't as indifferent to him as she once thought. In the first scene, we see Elianna sitting in the library. She's reading a book, and suddenly she hears something and she looks out the window, where she sees her fiancé laughing with another girl. She looks at them wistfully and thinks to herself, "Oh, the time has come." From there we go into the opening song. It is cute, very pretty. Not gonna lie, I was hoping to find some sense of a bookworm vibes, but this is its own thing, and from here on out I'm just going to talk about this on its own merits rather than comparing it to another anime that I just really enjoyed and really loved, but is thematically worlds apart, even though both deal with bookworms. So we get back into the story. Elianna Bernstein is part of a family of book lovers. They are nobles of a lower rank and are not affiliated with any faction nor interested in power struggles. All they want and all they live for are books. She's no different. In fact, her obsession with books is so great that she's not just a bookworm. People around her know her as the Bibliophile Princess, which I suppose is a shameful title that would make most girls sad. But she doesn't find it offending, and honestly, neither do I. I think that's a great title, so you go, girl. Well, 4 years ago, Prince Christopher, who is the first in line for the throne, came to her with an interesting proposal. He asked her to become his fake fiancée, since his mom was after him to find somebody to marry and he just wanted her to get off his back. She could also benefit from such an arrangement, he said, but she's not really having it, so he has to convince her. First, he tells her that she would be free to avoid the matchmaking parties that she would be forced to attend when she enters society, and that she can use that time instead to read. That sounds very appealing, but the finishing blow is when he tells her that she would be able to have access to the imperial archives. That's right, this guy baits her with books, and not just any books, but those that ordinary people wouldn't be able to read. Well, for a girl whose blood is made up of printed text, that offer is beyond her power to refuse. After that, he only needs to look at her face to see that she is fully on board with that idea. After that, he takes her to a library, which is the palace library, and remember that scene in Beauty and the Beast where he gives Belle a library? Well, it reminded me of that. This guy has done his homework and he knows how to get to this girl's heart. She grabs a book from the bookshelf and her entire face softens. She just looks so happy and beautiful when she touches the books. He also offers his office so that she can read there in peace whenever she comes to the palace. The days pass, and she just spends her time reading, grabbing one book after another, but when he tries to make small talk, she's so engrossed in her book that she doesn't reply. He just continues doing his usual kingdom-related business while she reads. We see her internal thoughts and see what's the reason behind her just gobbling up as many books as she can. And basically she thinks that she has a very limited amount of time to read these books since the engagement is fake. So she reads as many as possible, but all that time the prince is just looking at her from his desk and you know that he likes her. Okay, Elianna, since you're dense, I'm gonna help you. If you hear that he has some issues with the taxes in some region that has poor harvest, then you listen, then read the books about those issues, and then at some opportune moment when maybe the both of you can take a break from reading or working and you guys are having tea, then you start making conversation. You'll be very informed, and then you'll astound him with your insight and your wit, and he'll just beg to make the phony engagement real because he can't live without your beauty and your intellect, and then you get to have the royal archives for life. Listen to me. But anyway, she apparently doesn't know that this is the way you're supposed to do it, because she just continues reading while he works on various kingdom affairs just a stone's throw away. Seasons pass. She spends them in the castle reading. They talk about a collection of books, about the history of the old empire. She's apparently read all of the books in the archives that have to do with like ancient history, and that's really impressive. But there's a couple of volumes of books that she just wants to get her hands on, but they're really difficult to find. One day, about 4 years into the engagement, she's reading in the prince's office when a black-haired hottie named Lord Alexei comes in bringing books and asks for the prince. By the way, I want to make a clarification here. There are several good-looking guys in this anime, but they're not meant to be love rivals. And that is a good thing, because this is not a reverse harem. Anyway, so he comes and he sends her off on an errand to the royal archives. And as she walks there, we learn that during her time in the castle, she's met plenty of good-looking lords and become friendly with them. Besides Lord Alexei, the so-called Ice Lord, there's also Lord Glen, a redhead, who seems to be her guard when she goes home. I really like him because yes, he seems nice, and yes, he offers to help her carry the books, but also his VA is the same guy that did Kyo from Fruits Basket, and I absolutely adore Kyo, so yay! We also met Theodore, who is the prince's uncle and who seems to be the guy that is in charge of the royal archives, because he tells her that the book she requested arrived and she's incredibly happy about it. I mean, she just beams, and she's looking like that when the prince arrives. He playfully says that it looks to him like Elianna is happier to speak to his uncle than to him, and I can't blame the girl if that is the case. But anyway, he says that he has a gift to give her later. On the way back home, we see what he wanted to give her. He gives her an expensive jewel. I was disappointed. I honestly thought our guy knew enough that she would want that rare book or something that she had talked about earlier. Oh well, at least he's trying. Now, she looks at the jewel and she says, well, will it suit me though? And he says, of course it does. In fact, it pales in comparison to you. And oh, what's this? Prince Charming is giving her a very direct compliment. In response, she blushes delightfully, but as she watches his carriage drive away, she thinks, I almost mindlessly believed his flattery. Ah, Elianna, my dear, listen to what Auntie Magpie, who only realized too late when guys around her were actually serious as they flirted, learned much too late. He's interested in you. In fact, he's interested in way more than a phony engagement with you. He likes you a lot. Learn to read past the compliments and grab him while you still can. Sink your claws into him while you have a very high approval rating from his friends and family. Trust me, you need to do this. Think of the royal archives. Yours for life. Well, unfortunately, she, being soft-spoken, modest, and a little bit lacking in confidence, believes that it is her duty to return any gifts the prince gives her for the sake of the nation's treasury. She even asks her brother about it, asking him when it would be a good time to return the gifts, insisting that she's just a phony fiancée. And the poor brother, he doesn't know how to answer. We learn that there's a new girl at court named Lady Irene. She's a daughter to some viscount or other. Elianna tells her maid that she knows her as a very outgoing sort, who is basically the direct opposite of her. The maid warns her, saying that she hasn't heard good things about Lady Irene and tells her to be on guard around her. Not only that, but as her maid notes how pretty Elianna's hair is, she remarks on how she can't believe that she's being cast aside, pointing out that Elianna has been engaged these 4 years, and now that she's 18 and an adult, the prince should now come and claim her as his wife. The maid is upset for Elianna's sake that the prince just keeps putting off the marriage. And ouch, poor Elianna. You can see that the remark shakes her already puny confidence in herself and in the prince's regard for her. Geez, you're not doing Elianna any favors here. But it's not like Elianna is in love with the prince. She knows that between them there is no romantic feeling, and she's cool with that reality. Or at least she says she is, but I don't know. I'm getting a different kind of vibe here. Next day, Elianna is at the library, and she notices that a rung to a ladder is loose. Before she can report it, however, there is some commotion in the library, and it turns out that this girl broke something and has made a fuss. And that is when Elianna first meets Lady Irene, who is the girl that we saw at the beginning of the episode, laughing with the prince. And what the heck did she do? She broke a teapot and dirtied a book in the library, and the book is Elianna's. Irene apologizes for it, but suddenly Theodore, who I thought was a cool guy, says that it was Elianna's fault for leaving the book unattended, and that she doesn't need to apologize to her. Now what the hell, man? What possessed you? Who are you, and what have you done with my gentle Uncle Theodore? I'm sure the real one would have demanded a bloody carnival for having ruined a book. As to Elianna, girl, you and I need to talk. How dare you take this sitting down and agree with Theodore? Even if you were indeed foolish and drinking tea in the library, you shouldn't just accept it like that. Well, once Irene goes, Theodore warns Elianna that she needs to be careful, and she says that she will, and also reports the broken ladder. And Theodore, you're being a jerk, and I don't like you right now, but I figure there's reasons, because everybody now is acting really weird. We cut to various scenes where Irene is becoming friendlier with the people in the palace, especially the prince's friends. Elianna just notes that Irene is a really outgoing person. Meanwhile, there's a party in the palace that she's late to. When she arrives, Irene is all drenched and she's in a bad mood. But before we learn what's going on, Lord Glen arrives and escorts Irene back to her room and orders Elianna to go back home. Poor Elianna, she's so confused, and honestly, so am I. Even when they explained that the ruckus at the party was due to some broken pipes in the rose garden. Whatever. Things continue to be strange after that. She doesn't see the prince in his office for several days. And then one day she's trying to go into the archives as usual, but the scholars are busy working there and they tell her that she can't come in. There's too many people there. In fact, she tries to go in just to return the book, but Uncle Theodore shows up and tells her she can't come in and not to return for several days. Well, after that, she walks away sadly. She sees Glen and Alexei, and because she has time in her hands, she offers to help them with their work, but they're colder than usual and leave her on her own. And how sad, she's just sitting all by herself, moping about and thinking how she wishes she could at least have seen the prince that day. And then, as if by magic, who shows up? Yep, her man. I think it's the first time that she's truly happy to see him. And what makes this little rendezvous perfect is how he gifts her a book that she had mentioned before. That's right, the book that she had wanted to read a long time ago. Yeah, he found it for her at last. And it's quite a rare item apparently. And that just makes her so incredibly happy. So much so that when she thanks him, she's just glowing. And of course the prince is just starstruck with her. He even blushes. And how sweet. She tells him that she's going to be visiting an aunt and will be away for a week. And he says, it will be sad not seeing you, but take care of yourself. And get this, he tells her to come back to me. Ooh. I just love this. These two are going to kill me with their cuteness. When she returns 5 days later, she has to go to the archives. There's no one there, so she just goes in. She's reading when she looks out the window and sees the prince and Irene, and they are laughing together. And yes, this is where we started at the beginning. She reminds herself that she's only a phony fiancée and that this will all soon come to an end. She thinks that the prince is into Irene, and now she begins to cry as she remembers how Prince Christopher smiled at her when he gave her her book. And that is the end of the episode. In comparison to the more flashy opening, the ending is comprised of just a lot of stills, but they're all very pretty and colorful. Overall impressions, I liked it. And it's not just because this one is a blend of historical and romance, which is honestly one of my favorite genres. I found it to be a really relaxing watching experience, and I think future episodes might be just that. Probably it'll have the same vibe that I got from watching The Saint's Powers Omnipotent. I just hope that for my sanity, when they kiss, they actually show the kiss. That's all I ask. I will admit that in the back of my mind, at the beginning, I was drawing comparisons to Bookworm because, A sense of a bookworm is just such a huge part of my life, and finding anime or light novels like it is difficult indeed. However, soon I realized that this is a romance story, and bookworm is anything but. I signed up for a shoujo anime, and that's exactly what I got. Flowers and sparkles everywhere? Yup. Dreamy ikemen? Oh yeah. Heck, even Uncle Theodore can get it. A plot with seemingly low-stakes conflict that is centered around the relationship between two protagonists? Yes. Relationship misunderstandings aplenty? Yep, I foresee that. Heroines who seem to have little confidence in the love department and who will need it spelled out in letters large enough to be seen from outer space? Oh yes. I know what I signed up for and I got it. I got a pastel-colored delight. Maybe it's not like, oh my gosh, so exciting, but I like it for what it is. In this sad era when most studios will turn their nose at stories like this, Madhouse Studio took a chance on this story, and I appreciate that. I will continue to watch and look forward to more because I am invested in the relationship. Auntie Magpie needs to continue to give Elianna pep talks so that she can tell that Irene to get lost and to pay her back for the book she ruined. The nerve.